Good evening, viewers. Welcome to the latest edition of Media Track, the media analysis program that looks at the biggest stories of the past week. Stories Ashley Rosario, my colleague, and I are tracking this week. The Hathras case, the rape case of this young woman, 19-year-old woman that took place in UP in a place called Hathras, which is close to Noida. Then we will also look at the verdict on the Babri Masjid demolition, and we look also at the mounting cases of coronavirus that has Goa in its grip. So my colleague Ashley Rosario is with me on the program. Ashley, what do you think is the most significant story of the past week? Let's also look at the broader picture of the national scene and so on.
The story of the Dalit woman victim at Hathras in Uttar Pradesh is still developing.
Yes.
I think it's going to go big. Let's wait and watch because the entire political opposition seems to have trained its guns on the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister for the deteriorating law and order situation there. Apparently, in the 72 hours that this particular case happened, there were 18 such cases, rape cases, and all targeting the Dalit community, basically. So apparently, Yogi Adityanath, who hails from the Thakur caste, which is a dominant caste in Uttar Pradesh, and the Caravan magazine, I was reading a story in the Caravan magazine back in August. Apparently in the lockdown, this community was attacking the Dalits in a very organized manner. Yeah,
now Ashley, just to bring back the focus of the story to some extent, I was reading, on social media, there were a lot of comments. Obviously, social media is a thing to watch in these days of, the media having exploded in all directions. So there were some comments even from journalists saying that in UP, the opposition is missing on the ground. Now, on Thursday, we had Priyanka and Rahul Gandhi going to UP to see the family of the victim, and then they were stopped, and there was this clash between Congress workers, and then what happened, Rahul Gandhi got knocked down, and there was a lot of confusion. But there's also the attempt by the UP police to say that there is no forensic evidence of rape in this case. So are we going to get to the truth at all after all this?
In Uttar Pradesh, that's a big question mark, Devika. As you saw the case of that Dawn, who was finally, shot down.
And that too apparently was a caste story to do with caste. He came from a higher caste.
So Devika, this caste cauldron in Uttar Pradesh is something that has been playing out for the last 30 years. So when you have the Mulayam Singh Yadav government or the Samajwadi Party government in the Uttar Pradesh, you have these OBCs and the lower caste flexing their muscles. When you had Mayawati there, you had the Dalits rising. Now that you have the BJP there with a Thakur chief minister, you have that community flexing its muscles, and the drama is being played out on the ground there in Uttar Pradesh. So that is why great gesture by Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi to actually go down to the ground, but the Congress party doesn't really have the strength on the ground in the Uttar Pradesh, and according to me, why the opposition in Uttar Pradesh is missing is because the administration has tighten the rope around the necks of Mayawati and Akhilesh Yadav.
Yes, now when you have a government like that, that is, imposing, Section 144, not allowing people to express their dissent, etc. And so in these discussions, you could hear Rahul Gandhi shouting that, what am I doing wrong? I mean, I'm alone. You cannot impose Section 144 on a person traveling alone, walking on the street. Anyway, to look at another story that is playing out once again, in North India, the CBI fails to give evidence, and all 32 persons are accused in Babri Masjid walk free. Among them, of course, L.K. Advani, who is now 91 years old, the former deputy prime minister of the country. Then you have
Murli
Manohar Joshi, you have Kalyan Singh, you have Uma Bharti, then you have members of Bajrang Dal. So, actually there were so many witnesses in this case, which has gone on for 30 years. There were journalists who were witness and they testified. The Liebehorns committee, if you recall, found enough evidence to prosecute all of them, and now they walk free. And what do you think is going to happen to the case? Do you see the government appealing against this, or do you see the government just just giving it a pass totally?
I don't trust the government to appeal, but I think the Muslim side will appeal in the higher court for sure. But as outrageous as the judgment is, Devika, not surprising to me, given the previous judgment on the land dispute in the Ayodhya case by the Supreme Court of all the courts, where they hardly considered the law and rather went on this ground that, some sort of a solution to this problem has to be done. And they went and divided the land, and, hardly any law being followed there. So I was not surprised by the judgment, although it was outrageous.
Actually, to go back a bit to the Hathras rape case, because this is one point I missed when talking about it, is the way the police in UP just cremated the body of the girl without allowing the family to even be present. They took the body out into the fields, and right in front of their house, they left the mother and the sister and everybody weeping on the sidelines, and they cremated the body. Now, one theory is that they were just trying to cover up the evidence, and as you can see, it seems to be the case, because now they're saying there is no rape, and so this is the level at which the UP government is working, and how one can bypass this is really the question to be asked.
But Devika, a similar situation occurred in Gujarat in 2002. If you notice, when the Godhra incident happened and the subsequent communal riots happened, the Supreme Court had to intervene and move out trials of those cases outside Gujarat. Most of the trials were held in Maharashtra and Mumbai. So when you have this kind of political leaders who completely control the entire administration and are authoritarian in that sense, I don't think the judicial arm can rise above, and because they are part of the system in some way or the other, although they are in the constitution says they are independent and all that, but the prosecution is part of the system, the staff in the courts are part of the system, where the judges have little physical control over. So when sensitive cases come up like this, like the Supreme Court stepped in the Godhra, post-Godhra cases, there should be a norm where trials are held outside that particular state and outside the political influence of the people that are accused.
That's true. Now, to come back to a story that is trending in Goa, because right now, as we speak, as we're recording this program, we have this walk for peace from Mole to be held, which is currently happening, and I could see the photographs online. There were a lot of people riding on their scooters and bikes and taking part in it. So it is on Gandhi Jayanti Day, and the organizers had asked people to walk for peace, and Father Bolmax Pereira, I think, was the organizer of this. And one is hoping that there is a lot of response to that. But how many issues really are involved in this protest?
The primary issue are those projects in those protected forests in Mole and the Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary. But the core of that whole issue is obviously the coal.
Yes,
the
coal movement
from Mormugao to Karnataka.
Which will go through a lot of villages in Goa, and it will bring a lot of pollution.
Exactly.
Right. So the doubling of the tracks basically.
Right. That's the biggest project that is cutting through Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary as well as the Mole National Park. Plus, you have those two other projects, the widening of the national highway.
That's true, and the power lines,
the transmission lines. So all these three projects, but the core problem that these activists and a lot of researchers, a lot of environmentalists from across India have been raising is the coal handling at MPT, which they are trying to raise to about 15 million tons in the next 2-3 years. Just to feed the
Jindal Steel
power and steel plants in Karnataka by Jindal and Adani's.
Adani's, right.
Yes.
Now, there is also the other story that has really, shot up in the news, and that is what is happening in Melauli and Satari Taluka, and the villagers have been up in arms against this IIT project. Now, on Thursday, a lot of them moved out and went and protested in front of the Valpoi police station. But questions have been asked, really, Ashley, are they not going to benefit from an IIT project? Because if Goa also tends to be so myopic, that was a question being asked by some people who are in the IT industry, etc. If Goa is going to be so myopic about getting an IT project, and this is an IIT, it is a very sort of a prestigious institution. So Goa could benefit from it.
Devika, obviously there are benefits to it, but then, the people that are actually going to get displaced need to be, explain what are the benefits. They have to be compensated because for us it's very easy to sit here and say Goa will benefit from an IIT, but there are these people who for generations have been farming on that land. So their concerns need to be tackled. They need to be
actually hasn't the government delisted a lot of the property? They've taken away 40,000 square meters is what I read.
That's the catch. That's the catch, Devika. The land, that 45,000 square meters that they have delisted or denotified from that IIT campus is the land that surrounded a temple, apparently, that was revered by villagers from around. But these people who are now agitating other people from Melauli, who have been
cultivating there for generations. That's what they're protesting about.
No, that's true. That's true, because I've checked the paperwork of some of those people. So the chief minister did hold some kind of talks with them in Panjim about a week ago, where he said, you document your claims and, we will compensate you all. We will even we will try all sorts of compensation that is possible under the law, like including giving you alternate land for cultivation and stuff like that. Now, but let's see. There's a bit of politics involved in that.
So the politics in this, from what I gather, was initially that Vishwajit Rane, the health minister, industries minister, he wanted it in his constituency. I think it does fall within his constituency.
Yes, partly in his constituency
and partly in the
Korea,
chief and his father's constituency.
Yeah.
And there was even talk that there was this internal thing that trying to trip Vishwajit by instigating the villagers to protest. So one doesn't really know
there definitely is some politics involved.
Political
in this.
game.
Yeah.
And now, actually, to come to the coronavirus, the pandemic, which is ravaging Goa. I mean, it's ravaging the world, no doubt, but we are a small state and the numbers are really horrifying. We are on an average having 550 to 600 cases.
Yeah.
The death toll on Thursday was 12 people. That's a lot. And we probably have the highest death toll going by the population ratio of population to death. So in September itself, 233 COVID, people died of COVID. More than half the virus deaths occurred in September.
Yeah.
And cases increased by 16,000. So altogether now we have lost 440 people. And we are close to 40,000, I think, cases.
Yeah.
Right? But the sad part is when somebody dies. And as we were saying, one person whose death has sort of struck badly is the owner of Paulo Travels.
Mario. Yes.
Mario, he was a self-made man and he came up the hard way, worked really hard to set up the bus service. And I was reading that he was an innovator in many ways. He's the first one to have started the sleeping coaches, which was completely new in India. Then there is the case of the two Mascarenhas brothers who a little bit. Would you like to talk about them?
I know actually even Mario, down-to-earth guy, very... community kind of a guy, went out to help people in need. He has, bankrolled a lot of poor students' education. I know for sure. Mario was a lovable guy. And the shocking part was of this family from Panjim, Mascarenhas, Orlando and Oscar, well-known guys from Panjim, both did very well in their professional careers. Both are engineers. Orlando was general manager at the Economic Development Corporation, due to retire next year in February. And it's shocking. It's shocking that the pandemic has taken these two guys away in less than 3 days. Condolences to the family, definitely, and relatives and friend circles.
The thing is that now we have come to to open 5 of the pandemic, where the government is talking of opening cinema houses from October 15 with 50% seating. Now, there was an article which talked about Goa having the least rules,
least enforcement
of laws, and not only that, it is the most open state in the country. At least the other states might be following the central rules, but they have imposed some restrictions of their own. Not in Goa.
Devika, what the other states are doing is they are imposing these containment zones and these lockdowns at a very micro level, and they're doing it efficiently. Goa doesn't do that. That's the problem. Goa doesn't have an administration that is efficient at all.
It just seems to have lost the plot at some point.
It never had the plot. It was always lost. Right from day one, from the day that lockdown, that Janta Darbar and the lockdown, they were absolutely clueless what to do. The administration was absolutely clueless what to do.
And now the IMA, that is the Indian Medical Association of Goa, has declared that it will stop monitoring home isolated patients. So that makes the Goa government's fight even harder, if you ask me.
Devika, that home isolation, I don't know what is happening on that front, because I don't see people who are testing positive and isolating themselves at home being followed up by anybody.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
That's a big and most of these people who are dying, you know, we have what, 8 to 12 deaths every day.
Yeah.
Are people who are being brought into the hospital and they are dying within the first or the second day of admission, which means, which clearly means that the time they have spent in home isolation, they have not been properly monitored, or they have not been, you know, kept on proper observation. Clearly.
So Ashley, let's talk a bit about, you know, the new announcements made by the government, where, you know, Goa will be the first state to provide water. Then the state rolls out program to make villages self-reliant. Now, is this only rhetoric, or is this really something promising, something that one can look forward to? We should keep aside politics and aim to make the program successful,
Devika,
the Chief Minister says.
Devika, this particular plan, you know, I have reported extensively on it last week. I actually went through the entire plan. It looks very like all government plans. It looks great on paper.
Very rosy on paper.
Very rosy on paper.
That is what I had the impression.
But to give the devil his due, this particular plan was jointly drawn up by the Directorate of Higher Education and GIPAD, this new institution for training government servants, you know, in Ella. So what they basically did was they took about 35 colleges on board, and they actually sent teams of students and faculty from these colleges into these villages, where they actually kind of
got feedback
of what are the kind of occupations that are traditionally followed there in those villages, what is the potential of some of these villages, including the natural resources. It looks great on paper, but you know, I was speaking to one of the bureaucrats that was part of formulating this plan. What he says is, he doesn't, you know, he's not very enthusiastic that this plan would, you know, be a success, for the simple reason, he says, is the state level politicians do not want to devolve power to the panchayats. So basically they don't want that power going into the hands of those local elected representatives who run the panchayats. And he's saying, if that is not done, then this plan will flop. You know, basically.
In all this, you know, where the government is talking of bringing, you know, making villages self-reliant, etc., there have been stories after stories. Now there is one in your paper today, the Goan, which talks of, you know, the contractor, the Sopok contractor, alleges large sums of fees given to the PDA do not reflect in receipts issued to him. And there has been talk of corruption in, you know, the industry. People who are in industry are talking of ministers asking them for bribes, and they're not being able to function, and on it goes. I mean, here it is.
The corruption is something that is universal here, cannot be avoided.
No, but that business people are actually speaking out. You had even the Goa Chamber of Commerce prodding the government and saying that, you know, at least get something going. And you are failing in your duty, and everybody is stuck, and industry is not moving. So
I see hard times for the industry for at least another 2 to 3 years. I don't see any sort of economic activity reviving very soon, unless you know, a miracle happens in the current situation. Because it's not that Goa was great on the industrial front, even otherwise. Okay, except for you know, a few of those pharmaceutical sector companies that are doing very well from Goa. I don't see any great industrial activity in Goa, and with mining totally at a standstill, you know, the economic engine was only being run by the tourism sector in Goa.
And coming back to mining, we have the Chief Minister having a meeting just this week with the Prime Minister, and he says that after fruitful talks with the Prime Minister, the CM is hopeful of mining restart. But how many times have we heard this? How many times have we heard this?
Which meeting between the CM and the central leaders on mining has not been fruitful for the last 2 years.
Exactly.
But Devika, the ball is in the Supreme Court. I don't see anything that either the state or the central government can do. The legislative cure that he's talking about, I mean, this cure was existing from the time the Supreme Court banned mining. But I don't think the center has the political will to do that, because if they do that, they have to do it for the whole country. They can't have a separate law. Pass an ordinance and a separate law for Goa and allow mining in a different way in the rest of the country. So I think they will have to wait for the legal cure rather than the legislative cure.
That's true. And since we've run out of time, on that note, we will say goodbye and thank you for watching. See you next week.